Hey everybody, welcome to episode 88 of the Metal Detecting Show podcast. My name is Kieran and I have been metal detecting now for nearly 30 years. This week, I want to talk about 5 New Year's resolutions for Detectorists and some New Year's resolutions for the podcast. So let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. So if you like this content and would like more, please don't hesitate to tell your friends and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can do that too. The links will be in the show notes. Guess who's back? Back again. Guess who's back? Tell your friends. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast and a happy new year. So as you can probably tell, I'm free-flowing again this week. I got such a positive response to the last episode of 2021 when I free-flowed as well that I decided I'm going to give it another shot this week. So yeah, this week we're going to talk about 5 New Year's resolutions for metal detectorists and some resolutions for the podcast. But before we get into that, I want to just do a special mention to my wife, the lovely Mrs. Metal Detecting Show, who actually listened to one episode and I picked up the hint about my Christmas gifts. So I did well this Christmas with some Andres pencils and gloves and stuff. So it's been great. I'd like to also call out a long-time listener and a long-time friend, Silky Dave, who had listened to my plight about trying to get permission and called me and offered permission to hunt on his family's large acreage farm in the Midlands here in Ireland. So yeah, we're going to arrange to meet up and go hunting out that farm over the next coming week. So watch this space. I'm looking forward to updating you all to what happens in the future. So like I said, let's start the year with 5 New Year's resolutions for the Detectorists. I suppose when you're setting a goal, these goals have to be smart. And I'm going to put my manager hat on for a second. So smart goals are goals that are specific, S, very clearly defined, specific, measurable. Obviously, it has to be something that you can measure. Achievable. You don't want to be picking a goal that's it's way out in the future or something that is totally aspirational and unachievable. Realistic, which is a goal that you can achieve with your current mindset. And timely. You can't have an open-ended goal. You have to define a time for when you're going to hit that goal. So that's what SMART goals are. SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So let's start with some goals for the podcast. So if I say so, I'm going to try not say so anymore. So to start, let's set some goals for the podcast, with the first one being the transition to video. I've had a lot of requests and a lot of commentary around you should do the podcast in video, you should record it in video, and you should put it up on YouTube and snip bits up on Instagram and TikTok and all that, and that'll help drive social media for the podcast. I totally agree. I'm very bad at social media. However, I very much have the face for radio. I even doubt I have the voice for radio, but I'm willing to give it a shot this year. So I actually have the gear to do it. I have a camera and I have, the backdrop and all this crack that you need. But I don't know how interesting it would be to be looking at me talking into a microphone about the podcast. So I'd like to try and do something different, maybe include some slides and stuff like this or visualizations and, let's see what I can do with it. Let's see how far I can take with it. But at some stage over the year, I plan to transition to video for at least a few episodes of the podcast, just to test it out and see how it goes. My next SMART goal for the podcast would be I'd like to have more interviews. I've already talked to a few people and lined up a few potential interviews for 2022. Nothing's concrete just yet, but I want to set a target of 10 interviews. So that would be 20% essentially of all episodes. So 1 in 5 would be an interview. So if you have any ideas who you'd like to see me interview, let me know. I'm very happy to reach out to these people. But, when you're a small podcast, it's kind of hard to get the big guys. So let's be realistic and set a realistic goal here for who I can interview on the podcast. 2021 was a tough year for metal detecting all around. There was very little for content creators to actually create content with other than going out hunting. So, I'm hoping 2022 will be different and I'll be able to reach 10 interviews over the course of the year. So moving on to my next SMART goal for the podcast, I'd like to do at least a minimum of 5 product reviews. So if you're a product manager for any of the major brands, reach out. I would love to review some products. Those product reviews, actually, I'd like to do them on YouTube as well. So this would tie into the transition to video piece as well. Yeah, so looking to up my product review game. I've only reviewed one product really last year, whereas the first year, year one, I reviewed 3, maybe 4 products. So yeah, 2021 was a bad year for products, but now we have the Legend coming out. I'm sure I'll be able to review that. I'd love to review the Deus 2. I'm sure I'll be able to review that as well. Even if I have to buy it myself, I'll review it. But yeah, let's see how we get on with that. So 5 product reviews for 2022. Another one, maybe a little bit aspirational and maybe a little bit difficult to measure, but I'd like to finish that book. The book I started last year for the kids' metal detecting book, proving a lot harder than I thought. A little bit of hubris was involved, thinking that I could just rattle this out in a couple of weeks. But no, I really want to spend some time this year finishing that book out. So that includes visualizations, graphics, infographics, everything that comes with a book from a visual perspective. So yeah, a bit of work left to do on that. On to the next one. I'd also like to increase my YouTube profile. So I plan to do some videos outside of the podcast. Like I said, some product review videos. I'd actually like to start doing some live streams, maybe some restoration videos, some funny videos. I do have a long list of funny videos I think would be quite entertaining for me to do. So yeah, I'm really going to double down on the video aspect of things this year. And then finally, I'd like to double the number of listeners. So each episode gets, according to my podcast host, Buzzsprout, each episode gets approximately 1,000 listens, which is amazing. When I first started, I remember being delighted I was getting 20 listens. But I'd like to double that this year. And that would be the natural trajectory of a podcast. Year 1, year 2, you get to the 1,000, and then I'd like to double it every year, I suppose, as I go along. So yeah, so the target is to double listeners this year. This will require, I suppose, some investment by me around creating social media campaigns, advertisement, just getting the word out there of the podcast. I know I'm number 3 in the world on some of the charts purely based on downloads, but I know I'm number 1 in relation to frequency of uploads and number of episodes, and number 1 in relation to timely podcasts. I'd love your help with this. Every week I'll be telling you to tell a friend. And that should help me in my goals to get the podcast to where I want it to be by the end of the year. I am a guy who likes to learn and drive forward with everything I do. So I always like to try and push to the next level. And for me, if I'm not pushing to the next level and if I don't see growth, that's one of the driving factors for me that keeps me coming back every week, is the positive reviews I get from you guys that listen, the emails and the download figures. I am chasing the metric. I know you shouldn't chase the number, but that's definitely something that drives me each week to say, oh God, there's more people listening, so I need to add more effort into each episode. And I know you need to put the effort in before the listeners come, and I am really trying to focus on the quality of the podcast and videos this year. So that would be it, yeah, really. So just to recap the resolutions for my podcast quickly, I want to transition to video, 10 videos, 5 product reviews, finish that book, get on YouTube, doing more videos outside of the podcast, and double the number of listeners. And I can only do that with your help. So thanks for listening. Keep listening. And we'll actually get on to the main bit of content this week. So this would be my 5 top resolutions that any metal detectorist should be thinking about this year when they start metal detecting. So number 1, I say it every time, research. But you should make a concerted effort to research every site and make a call, go, no go, before you go. Don't just rock up and say, oh yeah, I like the look of this site, without doing any research. So you should have a target to research a certain amount of your sites. Obviously beaches and places like that may not need as much research as a field site, for example. However, you should make an effort to research every site you go to this year. And maybe this is more of a resolution for myself as well. This is more a resolution for you to get the muscle memory about researching a site before you go there, because the research is the most important thing for you to be successful as a metal detectorist. In number 2, the number of hunts you do in a year, right? 2021 was a good year for me, I have to say. I transitioned from looking from modern clad coinage to actually kind of relic hunting. Found that thimble, found that musket ball, which I lost and found again because I brought it to a party showing it off to everybody. But I found some amazing relics, amazing to me now, not from a historical or monetary value, 0, but amazing to me and really got the juices flowing. So for me, the number of hunts I probably got in last year was about 35 hunts. For this year, I'm going to aim for 50 hunts this year. And you guys should do the same. You should have a target in your head, right? Maybe you're not as active as I am. I'm not necessarily active. But because of the podcast, I felt I had to get out a lot more than I would normally previously. So, and it really drove me to go out, and those 35 hunts were amazing. So I'm going to aim for 50 this year. But for you, you should have a target. Maybe it's 26 hunts once every 2 weeks. Maybe it's only 12 hunts. I did a few years there where I only got out maybe 12 times a year, once a month. And you have years like that. But so maybe if you've done 10 hunts last year, aim for 15 this year. If you've done 100 last year, you should probably only aim for 50 this year before you get killed. But you know what I'm saying. Or pick a number of hunts that you want to attain in your mind and see if you can stick to it. On to number 3. Refine your targets. So what I mean here is set your detector to hunt a specific target at least once. And if you're doing like 50 hunts a year, like I'm planning to do, at least 1 in 4 hunts. So I learned an awful lot about the equinox by doing this over the last year. I set it up in what I believed would be for, say, small silver or coin-sized silver. And I went out and I really attuned the mind to go out and do this. You may not find what you're looking for, but you certainly gain an enhancement of your knowledge of your detector doing this. So you should do this at least once every 5 hunts, I would think, or regularly enough. You see guys going out and they're very successful finding silver. And that's because they have learned to tune their detector to look for silver. Similar for gold. There's guys out there who only want to find gold. If you look at Gary Drayton, famous beach detectorist, he very specifically sets up his metal detector to focus just purely on whatever target he's looking for on the beach that day. So essentially for gold, really. So if you watch people like that, you'll see that they do refine their detector to pick up particular targets. So that would be my resolution number 3. At least spend some time this year refining the settings on your detector to pick up particular targets. At least once every now and again. In number 4, get a permission. Yeah, so this is my biggest crux this year. Haven't been able to get out and knock on anybody's door looking for permission because of COVID. And I know a lot of us are sitting there afraid to door knock, afraid to ask the question. But if you have no permissions and you're skirting around the issue, doing public parks and sidewalks, beaches, and really avoiding knocking on the door, try and get at least one permission this year. Break your duck, break the stockade, and go out and get some permission. For me, my goal this year, my personal goal as a metal detectorist this year, is to get 3 permissions this year. Now, some of you guys might get 3 permissions in a weekend. But for me, in the environment I live in, 3 would be really good. So for me, it's 3. For you, it may be 1, it may be 10. But set a goal and strive to get that goal, And finally, in number 5, set a target. If you hunt clad, aim for, say, €100 or $100. If it's relics, aim for 10 musket balls or 10 buckles, 10 whatever floats your boat, whatever your favourite find is. For me, it used to be 3 gold rings and €100. I never hit the 3 gold rings. I would always hit maybe 1, maybe 2, and a few silver bits. And I would generally go over the €100 in clad every year. But since I switched to the relic type of hunting, obviously I need to aim for something else. So for me, it's just more relics. Focus this year 100% on relic hunting if I can. But for you guys, if you hunt clad, set a target, $100, $150. That'll get you out. I did see a guy once on YouTube and he had a target of €1,000 a year metal detecting. And what he would do is he would hunt and find €1,000 worth of coins and then would take that €1,000 and convert it into a gold bar. That's such a brilliant idea, such an amazing idea. Have something like that. Have something like that that will drive you to get out every week. It's a real motivating factor for you to get out. Could you imagine if your target was 1,000 and you were 850 and you had 4 weeks left in the year to go? I sure as hell would be out every second day trying to make that €150. It really sets you up to feel some sense of accomplishment, particularly if you're hunting clad and stuff like that. Relics, and maybe a cannonball. For me, I'd actually love to find some more musket balls, some more stuff from around that era. It'd be really great for me. Yeah, so set a target on what you want to find. So I suppose to wrap up there briefly, I'll go through them quickly again. My 5 top resolutions for a metal detectorist this year is number 1, research every site and make a call, go, no go. Don't just rock up on any site. Research every site before you go to it. Number 2, number of hunts. I'm aiming for 50 this year. You might be aiming for 20, but set a target for the number of hunts you're going to make this year. Number 3, refine the settings on your detector for a particular target you want to hunt. This really helps you learn your metal detector. Number 4, get a permission. If your goal is 1 permission, go for it. If your goal is 3, go for it. If you find it easy to get permissions, go for 20. You get the idea. And finally, number 5, set a target. If you hunt clad, aim for $100. If it's relic, aim for 10 of whatever floats your boat. You get the idea. So that's it for this week's episode of the Metal Detecting Show podcast. I hope you liked the episode this week. If you like this content and would like more, please don't hesitate to tell your friends. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to leave me a review, please do so in any podcast directory of your choice. And if you'd like to support the podcast through either buying me a coffee or being a patron, you can do that too. The links will be in the show notes. Get out there, good luck, happy new year, and happy hunting. Chat to you all again next week.